Why did you say no to Mr. Mukesh Ambani?
Mukesh Ambani is a people's person. But when it actually happened, India was taken by storm.
Any political pressure when you said no to Mr. Modi?
We leaders will fail if we don't listen. We actually do not treat the people who are not technology savvy fairly.
How does Bombay Stock Exchange manages all these technical challenges and the kind of traffic that they see?
Hackers cannot enter our system.
What do you think governs the market share and share prices?
Markets are lead indicators. You get to know first beforehand. So every month we get more than 25,000 crores in the market. SEBI gets daily reports. People don't know we study this. This government kept STT and increased the LTCG. We also had tax-free bonds. Who are new to shares should not invest in the shares directly. Very interesting question. It's a very sad scenario. And I've seen those crashes. When I was part of Mukesh Ambani's team, I knew that this was a game-changing thing for the country.
Tell us something about your love story.
Days also sound like years when you are expecting an answer. Because of her, I think I looked at life in a different manner. I still recall her the way she was when I got married to her. Every day, I used to take her to the seashore.
Did you feel alone?
My mother was working as a housemaid. She has to cut her hair, remove her bangles, and you asking me questions actually helped me learn a lot.
So how do you maintain work-life balance in such a high-stake environment and the market which runs 24/7?
I hope that the calls stop sometime, the messages stop sometime. Stock exchange does not trade in shares. Investors don't know that there is an investor protection fund. Every life matters. Every child matters. Every human being matters. The governments across the world don't do it. Politicians don't do it. ये मार्केट गिर गया तो क्या हुआ? क्या फर्क पड़ता है?
Hello, people. Please join me in welcoming a man who needs no introduction, the ex-managing director of BSE Investments and head of strategy for Bombay Stock Exchange, Mr. Shankar Jadhav, who happens to be IIT Bombay and IIM Ahmedabad alumnus. He was responsible for ensuring that the fastest exchange of the world run smoothly, navigating the intense pressure environment and keeping investors and compliances at the forefront of the strategy while mitigating risk. Currently serving as the director at Blue Rock Strategic Investments, he's had a profound influence on the tech landscape in India. Having started his career as a help desk engineer, he moved on to pivotal roles, including his stints with Siemens Group, Wellspun, and Reliance Industries, where he played a key role in launching the revolutionary smartphone that brought affordable technology to millions, echoing the iconic call to action, Kar lo duniya muthi mein. Today, we'll dive deep into a meaningful conversation to know his unique leadership approach and learn how to mitigate risk while investing. The lessons he learned along the way shaping the future of finance and technology. Let's begin our inspiring conversation with a leader who continues to redefine the boundaries of what's possible. Thank you so much, Mr. Jadhav. It's such a pleasure to have you on our show.
Good afternoon and thank you for inviting me on your White Talk. I am very happy to be here.
Many leaders come from humble beginning, and your story has been a testament to it. Can you share how your background shaped your values?
Actually, like all people of my age who have risen to be leaders, they've come from humble backgrounds. I think that time India was not really very rich. Very few people were rich. So I also do have that. But what shaped me more is not the money, but the respect you get when you do something good. I remember it's not money because we didn't have food to eat. My school had to give some Bonvita boxes or some food. And there were two brothers. We'll share one chapati for the whole day because my mother used to work. When we were born, my mother was working as a housemaid. Of course, she was educated till matric and she did work well. But the biggest problem was people did not respect you if you wanted to do something big. So my mother insisted that I go to a convent school, learn English, go to the best places. And why I'm saying about the mother is because I lost my father very early in the age. It was a very difficult task. I was giving an exam and my father passed away. They waited until I finished my exams and then informed me, and my father could not see me at the last moment. That shaped me. I realized that we on this earth are only for a few years here. It doesn't matter really whether we are big, small, whatever. But whatever we do, if we enjoy ourselves and we make people enjoy, that would do well. That's what has shaped my future. So all throughout my school, college, and work, I always made sure that I enjoy what I do. And if I don't enjoy, I have not taken long to decide that I should not be here. So I believe that you have to enjoy life. That's one of the things one should do without hurting others.
Great. That's actually a great ideology. Losing a parent so early on in your life, was it difficult navigating the professional and the personal side?
At that time, it was very difficult because those were the times when a widow was treated differently in our society. My mother was told that she has to cut her hair, remove her bangles, and wear. At that time, she was working as a teacher. And I insisted. I said, no, you don't have to do this. You are a human being. She listened to me. I still remember that uh, I took her for a movie after many, many years. And I took her for a movie by the Mukaddar Ka Sikandar. And it was a very lovely movie. And it had a great impact on her also. She realized that life is going to go like that. And after that, we did not look back.
When you lost your mother, did you feel alone? Were
I
you
did.
anxious?
In fact, you don't know that was the loneliest I felt because there was no one else other than my mother who I lived for. There was a time in my life when I thought that why am I living? While studying, also, I used to think. And after my mother passed away, she had cancer and she lived for longer than expected by the doctors. And we could talk quite a lot. And she told me, you have a few responsibilities if you can complete because they are my responsibilities.
Your mother, in her last stages, wanted to see you getting married. Was that decision a pressing decision for you moving forward?
Marriages being a big issue, I also did not want to marry. In fact, I carried it on even after my mother passed away. My mother was detected with cancer as soon while I was in IIM. But the doctor did not inform anyone in the family because they thought that they would not understand. So when I came back from IIM, I went to the doctor. He explained to me what happened. And then I realized that if she wants me to get married, I'll marry. When we got married, I didn't know my wife, but we were still not talking because it was like an arranged marriage. So there was no one to talk to. She would not understand why I'm so quiet, what do I do, and plus my fields were different from what her fields was. So I have full room of books.
So, was it difficult for her as well to bring
Yes,
you out of the
because
shell?
she thought I just married for marriage sake, and I was not interested. In fact, physically also we did not come close for months because I was totally lonely since my mother died, and then slowly as we became friends, we developed a relation. It did recover, but even today, I still miss my mother because she could not never see me earn any money as such because we were poor. People change over a period of time. I might have changed. She must have changed. I still recall her the way she was when I got married to her. Uh, every day, I used to take her to the seashore. That time, there was no encumbrance. We stay very close to Mazgaon dock. So I used to go and take her to Ferry Wharf every day. It was so much fun. It was like we were in a paradise. And those things helped me live my life. And I can't forget those moments. Many people may forget. The worst part of those moments is all moments are going to go away from your hand
They're
because
going
we
to
are
fade
humans
away. Yeah.
and time will take its toll. The
So,
loneliness I feel in my heart or
yeah.
my mind.
Yeah.
Heart doesn't remember anything. So
Nothing.
people differentiate, but there is no difference.
So, tell us something about your love story. How did that happen?
The pressure started coming every day, two, three times. So one day I just gave into the pressure. I said, okay, I'll marry. And that time I used to work in Thane, which is very far away. So I happened to travel by train. So one day I just got down from the train around that. I saw a girl walking. I just happened to ask her a name. And I said, I've seen her somewhere. She's a very bubbly sort of lady, girl rather. And next time I decided, okay, I'll ask her only to get married. So I started carrying my salary slip, my degree certificates, etc. So do let me know your views. I expected her to come back to me, either say yes or no in a few days. But unfortunately, I could not meet her again for long, many days. And days also sound like years when you are expecting an answer, either yes or no, because I'm a very clear person. Then one of my friends just mentioned having made a new friend whose description was like her. So I just asked them, how do I find her? So they said she goes by some BST bus. I went to that stop. That day I waited for more than a couple of hours. I was getting late to office. Yet I waited in the hope that I'll see her. She was also late, it seems. But finally I saw her. She got into a crowded bus. I also got into it. And she got a seat, like ladies normally would get a seat, and someone else was sitting besides her, some boy. I forced him to get up. I just held him by a hand and got him up. I sat beside her and I just said, I just want your yes, your family's yes or no. If you say no, also is all right, but just do let me know. And luckily, she said, let's meet in the evening somewhere and I will let you know. I thought she will meet me in Mazgaon, but unfortunately, she told me a place where she knew I was working in Worli. She told me, and we met there. The funniest part, you wouldn't believe, in Bombay, normally the BST buses are just opposite each other on the other side. That particular bus stop where we planned to meet, there was no opposite bus stop. The bus stop was some more than 1 kilometer away on one other side or half a kilometer away. I was standing at one and she was standing at another. And after some time, there were no days of mobile phones, etc. After some time, I started walking. While walking, I realized that could be the other stop. And since I went to the stop and she was there, and I realized one thing, that if she's waiting for me, even if I am late because of whatever misunderstanding that we had, that means is yes. I went expectantly. She said yes.
Wow, what a beautiful story of having a yes. Why did you say no to Mr. Mukesh Ambani?
I was working with Mr. Modi, Manoj Modi. I was his executive assistant. And he had given me instructions, Shankar, anything that you give to anyone, you please take my confirmation beforehand. And it so happened he went abroad to the US on some work. I got a call from Mukesh Ambani's office saying that he wanted a certain document. Now, I was very young and I was a follower of my rules. So I said, I cannot give you. So they thought that maybe just now I'm busy and I'll give. So the secretary called me 3, 4 times and I said no. And I told him the reason is that I have been told not to give any information or any documents to anyone without the permission. So if I get the permission, I will give. Otherwise, I will not give. And the secretary told me, Shankar, do you know that you're saying no to the chairman of this company or MD that time? I said, yes, but I have to follow my boss. And I said, as soon as I connect with him, I will let you know. When I connected him in the late night when it was early morning in US, and I informed him that this is the document that we asked. He said, no, don't give. Tell them that I have told you. It's all right. So next day again, I told Mukesh Ambani's office that I cannot give you, since my boss has said. And they were very surprised. I don't know, they must have had people like that. And after a few days when Manoj Modi ji came to office back again and Mukesh Ambani was also there, but I remember Mukesh Ambani ji saying, okay, this man refused me some papers because you had not given instructions or you had said. And he told him, yes, I had only said. And that time I realized what value it means because I was working in Manoj Modi's office until I resigned from the place. And I knew that the trust level that I had developed, I was handling his full office. And Reliance is a wonderful company. I learned so many things. Both Mr. Mukesh Ambani and Manoj Modi, I would say they are excellent people. Mr. Modi is not so well known in the media. He normally keeps himself in the background. But he's well trusted man of Mukesh Ambani. And Mukesh Ambani is a people's person. He takes care of his people. We used to work late night. I still remember I would leave office at 2:33, but my wife or me would not be worried at all because he would get the same food for us as colleagues that he would get for himself. There was no difference. We've traveled together when I went to his private plane. I still remember we were all treated the same. He's a wonderful person. Of course, he's a businessman. He will have to act as a businessman when he works. But as a human being, both of them are very nice.
For many people who are not aware, I mean, Mr. Manoj Modi has been behind Jio's $13 million deal spree.
You're talking of the current Geo. When we did that project, when we talked about people should get in a postcard, they should get a phone call. It was a great dream. I remember the dream when I had been part of the team that drafted the then chairman Dhirubhai Ambani's statement that we will get one wire to people's houses. And I realized this is something big. When I joined them, it was for that reason. When I should tell people that we'll get phones which will allow you to have video conferencing.
Yeah.
You can have a ringtone different for your one friend and your wife and mother. So you'll identify who's who by the ringtone. They were not believing it. But when it actually happened, India was taken by storm. There's one thing that we can learn from Reliance and Mukesh Ambani and Manoj Modi is that they put the money, they have big dreams, and they do it. So Jio is the first avatar, second avatar, but the first avatar was also huge.
Were you afraid of the potential consequences, losing job or, any political pressure when you said no to Mr. Modi?
I don't think so. We were very young. I knew one thing, that why should I change myself, my principles for someone else, whether it be anyone, including my boss. Many of my colleagues thought that this was an action that will result into me getting a backlash. It didn't happen. In fact, I believe after that, Manoj Modi ji kept his same trust that he always had. And Mukesh Ambani realized that, yes, you can trust this man. So when I went for the interview, I was told that you might have to wait. Mr. Modi is a very busy person and all, and be careful. He's very sharp. And when I went inside the meeting, he called me much before that 10-15 minutes. And I realized this is the same man I had not met Mr. Modi before. This is the same man who talked to me. And if he can speak like this to me, it's worth. But I still didn't want Reliance culture. But that time when he showed me the presentation of what he wanted to achieve, and the price points, and the vision, I think that captured me. You have to do right things at the right time. And that's what great planning is about. Still feel that a leader who's working with them is a leader who helps them.
Great.
You don't require followers. One of the major things that the Indian leaders require is to listen. I think we leaders will fail if we don't listen. And you have to listen to the people who actually work. And I also worked on the supercomputer craze. There were only two. The one was got in Delhi for weather forecasting, and the other was in IIT. And we used to simulate electronic circuits and all. My passion is technology. Even today, if you give me an electronic circuit board and electronic circuit, I would rather look that than the finance or business part. But yes, business is a skill that one develops, that I have developed over the so much of period.
But having so discrete choices, finance and, technology, how have you mingled that together?
I always realized that being an IIM alumnus, you will be in business. So the initial years I spent doing technology. In fact, when I was in Siemens Information Systems Limited, I remember though we were involved in SAP implementation, the administrators of servers and all, if there was a problem, they would call me because I would be there. And I used to do that part also. And I realized that gives me more joy. So one of the reasons when I joined Reliance from Siemens is that in Reliance, working with Mr. Modi's office, I could do everything. We broke apart every item of the phone to find out what is the bill of materials. We knew every cost item. That is why when we sold the phones, even at that 500 rupees monsoon dhamaka and at the 25,000 rupees plan, we ensured that our Indian customers get the best value. In this fintech world, we actually do not treat the people who are not technology savvy fairly. You know, the total money lost today on cyber frauds is because of unsavvy people being forced to use technology.
Yes.
We have to help them. India has to think that every life matters. Every child matters. Every human being matters. In fact, that's one area where my wife and I work, where we try to support children. In fact, if the municipal corporation gives me permission, I would personally go and teach someone, not only to educate them, because I don't think I might be a very great teacher, but to inspire them that if you learn, educate yourself, you'll grow big. I'll give them a personal story. I was not really so good at academics or in school. I used to just avoid school like any child would do that time. And when I went into St. Mary's School, which is a very popular school in Mazgaon, one of the teachers, and I still remember her, Mr. Scano, she was a maths teacher. And she once got very angry on me, saying, "Gadhe ko aata hai." My surname is Jadhav. In Marathi, Gadhe ko Gadhav bolte. Gadhe ko aa sakta hai, tumko nahi aata hai. And I took it as a challenge. By means of this interview, if I can tell people how to study. In Latin, there's something called ab initio. Ab initio means start from the beginning.
Okay.
So luckily I was in school, so it was not a difficult task. I realized if I don't understand maths of say 6th standard, 7th standard, what can I do? Suppose I read a first standard book now, will I know? I read the first standard book. It got over in first day. Then I read the second standard book. And slowly I realized it's very easy at a later stage to learn the early stage stuff. The same thing I did in IIT and IIM. If I don't understand, I go again. I go and read. I understand. I come back. When I went to IIM, there was a club I started, which still runs today. It's called a Mad Club, the Mad Club. It's a movie a day. During our time, there were VHS cassettes.
Movie a
Every
day.
day, I used to see a movie. Every day. In fact, you'll be surprised in IIM, there was a very strict professor, or rather, most of the professors in IIM were strict. And I like rains. Coming from Bombay, Ahmedabad don't have rains. When I was studying, it did rain very heavily. So one of the classes, it started raining and I was distracted in the class. So the professor was obviously distracted by my distraction. So he said, Shankar, what's happening? I said, sir, it's raining outside. I really like to get wet into the rain. He said, then go, please go. I didn't know whether he said sarcastically,
Or he
angrily, or
genuinely
actually meant.
meant it.
But I assumed, and I think I was right because it didn't have any repercussions. I left the class. I said, thank you, sir. And I went. You can just imagine, I thought I was brave. Some of my classmates got out after me, saying, sir, we would also like to get with him. So we had a music club there under D9. We started the music inside the music room and outside we were dancing. I don't know dancing at all. I was just enjoying the music and getting wet in the rain. But that's the way we lived our life. I told you, studies are important, but they're not going to encompass your life. There was this data center that we had to build as per the SEBI timeline. We had given the contract to Wipro. I remember Mr. Azim Premji. I really have very great respect for that man. Such a humble person. He came to BSE. He met with Ashish Chavan and me and he apologized. And we felt very sorry. Because let me tell you, whenever a project is delayed or something goes wrong, it is not one party to blame.
That's right.
That Mr. Azim Premji's visit, it was not the first time he said. Even the second time we met, he was again saying the same thing. And it's such a humbling experience that a person of his stature is saying that. And at the same time, I meet other stalwarts. I met Amartya Sen, for instance. As a part of BSE's marketing head, I have been conducting lots of events there. And lots of great people came to meet. And I enjoyed meeting.
You've known so many great leaders. What is one thing that you see common in all the leaders that you've met?
Almost all the people who I think I liked were all humans. They behaved like normal people. They treated you like themselves and their family members or friends. And I think that's very great thing. It's very difficult for a person to be so humble.
Very true.
Second thing I liked of them is they always were curious also. They had queries, they had curious, and they had a vision they want to achieve. After leaving BSE, I have taken on an advisory position in an NGO where we are connected with lakhs of undergrad students
Right.
in Maharashtra, where we give them life things, life hacks actually, to learn, understand, and an inspiration. I believe each one of us can do that. My wife, for instance, has been part of the management which helped run an orphanage for 200 girls. There was a peculiar problem for people who are poor, for instance. They require to prove their identity or that they are low income. How will a poor person say, I am low income?
So, is it a charitable work that you both do?
Not charitable. I believe one has to give respect. In fact, the organization that we are likely to start will be called Asmita, Akshay Asmita Foundation. The reason is, I believe respect is something, as I told you, that's one thing. And the respect comes from walking the talk.
True.
There's no fun in just dreaming but not doing anything.
When you talk about cybersecurity and having worked with Bombay Stock Exchange, which is, at the brink of risk and challenges, how does Bombay Stock Exchange manages all these technical challenges and the kind of traffic that they see?
Acha, a Bombay Stock Exchange has got a unique way of handling this. What we do is our trading systems are separate from our other systems. BSE was the fastest stock exchange in the world. And I don't know whether you understand the implication of why fastest is required, I can talk about it, but what we realize is only data that we want should come into the system through the routes that are open to them. So when we get data, like suppose you want to buy 200 shares of a particular company, only that information goes into our system, nothing else. And it goes into the appropriate field. So hackers cannot enter our system through punching any numbers or buying or selling shares. And we process everything internally in our data center, in our hardware, and we give the results out. So there is no way to enter the system through software. As regards hardware, I do not know whether you know data center security is top notch. There's something called tier 1, 2, 3 and all.
Yes, yes.
So we have physical security, we have a police on the ground, we have a building, and in fact those times, because the earlier exchange they had some parts as vault, physical stocks. So we have got iron sheets in our ceiling, and so it is quite secure. So
Are we here talking about the physical security as well?
physical security also.
Okay.
So I talked about software security, I talked
Yeah.
about physical security. Now if you can't get into the hardware and software, you can't get in.
Right.
So the trading systems are very good. But if you talk about website, yes, it's hosted like any other website. You can do something.
After having served stock market for more than 12 years, what do you think governs the market share and share prices?
Actually, the market reflects what's happening in the economy. So whatever happens in the economy, the markets are lead indicators. You get to know first beforehand. Like lots of people are finding out why the FIs are going out. More than why, you should say what is it signaling. So one of the things it signals is that Indian economy is likely to slow down. It's not really going to grow as much as it grew last. You should read the Bloomberg's report, which has come recently, which says that the FII pullout may cost India almost half a percentage point in this quarter. It's a large amount.
That's
Half a percentage point of growth of GDP for an economy like ours is going to be a big problem. So markets give you lead indication. But there are also issues. What's happened over the years is, I remember that's one of the tasks that we did in BSE. The number of investors were very low when I started in BSE. And we decided that we should get more investors. So we had investor awareness programs, more than few thousands every year. So in fact, I remember the last one, we had some more than 6,000 events in a year, all across the country. And today we have some 14 crore or 15 crore investors. That's how the effect that's come. But also, it also means that there is a problem. We have lots of money coming in the market with very few shares. So the price, PE, we call it, price to earnings ratio, is very high. So Indian stock markets are considered overbought or rather highly priced now, PE ratio being high.
okay.
So what FIs did was, at the time they started this, the dollar returns value was still positive. And since US is going to do better or the other world is doing better than emerging markets, they took the money out. And Indian retail investors are putting the money in the SIPs. This SIP money is going to these mutual funds where they can decide what to do as per the rules of the theme that they have given. So every month we get more than 25,000 crores in the market. Now, unless we have new companies being listed, the money is just going to increase the prices of existing shares. Second, in the new IPOs that we see, there is a growing trend of existing investors selling their shares.
Right.
Normally in share market, we call that offer for sale. So if any investors, existing investors sell their shares, it's called offer for sale. What these IPO guys do, very cleverly they call it IPOs because there's some portion for IPOs, but it's actually 90% for instance is OFS. This is a very bad trend, which means the existing investors are taking out money. So if you look at the charts, details of the data of the markets, you'll see most of the money is where promoters have sold the shares. And when promoters sell their shares to make money for themselves, it also indicates that they have less belief in their own companies giving much better returns from the markets.
Right.
And I think that indicator is not being read by investors. If investors read that indicator, they will ask questions. Why should the promoters sell? Why should they sell in such quantities? And why is an IPO not separated out from IPO and OFS? There are some people who talk about IPO and OFS, But that's what it is. So I believe markets will tend to go up and down depending on the economy.
So, how do you maintain work life balance in such a high stake environment and the market which runs 24/7?
Work-life balance is important. I believe people who are employees, they give you number of hours packed with their productivity, and they require time to again rejuvenate. Otherwise, the efficiency drops. There is no use of a person who works for 10 hours but inefficiently. I would rather be happy a person who works for 6 hours efficiently. So for myself, I think work-life balance is maintained when you do something that you enjoy. Being in senior positions for a long time, I don't remember how much work-life balance was there in the younger days, but I can assure you, during the younger days, we didn't have to think, because once you are out of office, there was no mobile phone, there was
Right.
no internet. In fact, if today, if you ask me, living naturally is better. There are many people who avoid mobile phones and all. We should have a law in India which says if you contact some person after office hours, you should be paid 5 times more or some number of times more, so that the person has a proper work life balance. It's no use I'm at home, but I keep on getting calls every few minutes.
Right.
I see my youngsters today at home and I feel very sad for them. I developed that habit over the last few years, including in BSE. I would move to a place where there is no signal at all.
Signal.
No signal, no network signal at all.
Okay.
No Wi Fi, no electric signal, nothing. And many times there would be no electricity also. So that's how natural you have to be. And I would tell my office that I am outside in such place. If you have anything urgent, please ask my colleagues, subordinates, whoever you want to ask, but I will be away.
Do you
And it
still meet
worked.
with your old friends, old school
Old
buddies?
friends with the family, etc. Even now we took a take. In fact, my children also didn't understand this. Now they are working, and I think around 3 4 weeks back, I took them out to that place, to some place where there was no network. They were in a bliss. My daughter-in-law told me, "Oh, I was so happy there was no work." I said, "There was no work because you didn't get a signal at all." In today's world, bosses don't give this privilege. In fact, in BSc, if you ask anyone, I told them, when you come and go is as per the rules of the company. If your shift timings are so and so, you please come and go. No one ever has to ask me that, sir, shall I go or not go? You don't have to wait for me. If I work, I will tell you. Then I realized that they all want. They don't care whether the boss is educated or not. They believe that if the boss is human, that's enough. I believe work-life balance starts from there. In the COVID times, Bombay Stock Exchange was one of those entities. We took a decision that financial institutions cannot stop. So Ashish Chavan and all the team members, we took a decision. We conveyed to the finance minister and prime minister and all. And it was already announced that they will not stop. People at senior levels are there because of their own duties. Best drivers and conductors were also human.
Yeah.
They didn't want to go out.
Yeah.
So he told me, Shankar, they will not listen to me. So I'll give you a person who will they listen to. So they had some union leaders and all in the management. That person said, Shankar, anytime you have any problem, call me. In the last 12 years that I worked with them, one of the things that I am very happy that I've done, and I'm not proud, remember, being proud is different from being happy, is I really walk the talk. You ask anyone whether they want to deal with BSE as a stock exchange or any other stock exchange, they will say, we want to talk to BSE people.
Looking back at your career, what do you think your biggest accomplishment has been personally?
I've nudged more than a few hundred people who would not even have passed their school exams to complete college education. A boy who didn't even know English thought of going to a college like IIT and then IIM and then worked abroad, worked in India. I think it's a great achievement personally. Being curious has kept me alive. I still learn quite a lot of things, especially in IT. You know, when you have only 100 rupees, earning 1 lakh is very big. And when you have 1 lakh, 1 crore seems very small. Imagine a boy who was being ridiculed for learning in English school. They would say he's trying to become a sahib. When I was part of Mukesh Ambani's team of launching a telecom service, I knew that this was a game-changing thing for the country. That I think was one of the biggest things that I did. But also I would be very happy that I achieved what they wanted to achieve in BSc. Personally, I think The most fulfilling thing I've achieved is to not be very, very, very happy when you are actually happy and not be very, very, very sad when you are sad. That balance, like Gautam Buddha says many times, that don't be very happy. Nothing in the world is really so worth it. And I think I learned quite a lot from my wife. If she had not happened, I don't think I would have done so much things in life. She's the person who encourages me. She's the light who I see. I don't know whether she sees the same or not. She must be. But because without her, there would be no aim to live. Because of her, I think I looked at life in a different manner. And people, I think leaders should be married. They should have a family. Without having a family, they miss that empathy. We have lots of leaders who are unmarried, like Atal Bihari Vajpayee was.
Yes.
He still had empathy. But there are many who might miss out on it.
Even our current Prime Minister.
But I think he has empathy to an extent that I've seen him crying and all. I do not know whether he meets children, whether he has a godchild. Like Atal Bihari Vajpayee seemed to have nephews and nieces and all.
Yes.
But he must be surely doing. I do not know much about it. But I believe leaders should have that. Only then can they realize how to treat employees and subordinates and others. In fact, my children, if they ever start their business, I have already told them one, two things. Please work in a company for a few years. So you'll know how your boss treats you, how the systems work, how much salary you get versus what you will give, and be fair. If my children, if they start something and they are fair to their employees and subordinates and friends and colleagues, I think I would have achieved something. So I'm still that old school types.
What's one thing about your profession that most people either don't understand or might misunderstand?
So one of the things that they don't understand, that a stock exchange does not trade in shares. We run the stock exchange. We don't buy and sell shares. We don't give training on how to trade, etc. We don't do that. Many people mistakenly ask us, "Arey, how many shares you bought, etc., etc." So that's one of the biggest things. The second is when we talk about cyber security and other things, many people believe we are always there watching something, whether something is happening and we have something in our hand. Nothing like that. Cyber security is all run by today computers. The whole IT, the whole exchange is run by computers. The computers automatically give an alarm. Let me give an example. We have a full-fledged surveillance area in which a person goes inside, he's like a prison. There's no communication device allowed inside. There are lots of screens. There are lots of things that you get. You see the news, you see this. There is a system which automatically tracks the social media, the screens, and they generate alerts. For example, a company owner talks about his company somewhere in a manner which is not as per the rules. That is instantly alerted. And whatever alert we get, the same thing goes to the SEBI and to whoever is concerned. They get analytics. Okay, this particular team or this particular investor has got these 100 things wrong, or this particular broker has got this wrong. They monitor it, they analyze it, there are reports prepared, and SEBI gets daily reports. And the daily reports go separately from continuous report. There's something called tick by tick details. Every tick means a particular order that is placed.
Every tick SEBI gets reported.
Every tick is gone everywhere to the authorities. We store it also. Many people are surprised that we get more than crores of orders in the initial and the final stages of the market.
And what defines the initial and the final stages of the market?
In stock exchange, we have something called PTP, Precision Time Protocol, for which a separate antenna is put. It's all connected to the exchange systems. So anywhere across the world, if you are connected, you'll see the same time. The reason is in 1 millisecond, which is the thousandth of a second, many orders would go, thousands or lakhs of orders will go. We have done a study with some professors and all, and we found out how much it will change. People don't know we study this. People don't know that we do so much research, real time, money related data goes on.
Right.
You will see lots of scams in banks and other things. You will hardly find anything happening in exchanges. The reason is the systems are regulated. There's 100% audit trail. People don't know we think about it all the time. We continuously do. Lots of investors don't know that there is an investor protection fund. So whenever a systemic failure occurs, suppose some broker is there and it goes down, then there is a systemic order which is put, the notice is put in the newspapers, We inform the investors that if you have any grievance, please come. There is an arbitration mechanism or the grievance mechanism wherein if there's an investor who complains that this broker has done so and so, on the day of the first meeting, some money, I think 50%, I don't remember now, is transferred to the investor's account, assuming he's right.
Okay.
Because the broker is connected to us, even the investor is connected to us, we know their balances and all.
Correct.
And the arbitration takes place, normally it gets over and the money is settled. There are thousands of things that happen in the exchange. People are unaware. You go to our website, it seems that BSE website is one of the largest traffic websites during market hours.
Yes.
There is something called swing trading, which lots of Indians who are not very well aware of the markets do. What they do is, whenever the share prices, certain target shares that they have, the prices go down by say of 0.5% or 1%, they will buy the share. And when it goes above that trend by 1%, they will sell the share. So there are lots of people who do that. Unfortunately, many of them don't understand that there are something called friction costs or transaction costs. So today, STT is very large cost. And let me talk on behalf of the investors who are watching us. STT was implemented because long-term capital gains was there, which was removed. So STT was put. And long-term capital gains was made zero. And indexed to, subject to index in case of long-term. What happened is this government kept STT and increased the LTCG. That has reduced the gains that an investor makes. STT is a very large component of the total cost any investor pays when he buys or sells shares. STT is a huge component. And I think that's unfair. There was a broker who asked this question to our FM in a program held at BSE.
Yeah.
And he's a friend of mine, very close friend of mine. The FM did not answer him, but the question became viral. And the worst part is, in the next budget, they again put it. In fact, I'm very sorry for the investors, but then it's the government which has to decide what we should do.
Since you're talking about the investor panel, investor segment, what do you think some of the red flags for the investors?
See, one of the worst parts is it's become a trend that if others are investing, I should also invest. There's nothing wrong in that. But there is one thing wrong. If I don't know how to drive a car, will I drive a car? I should get a driver. So one is they should get a financial advisor if possible. If you can't get a person as a financial advisor, at least get an institution as a financial advisor. For example, people who are new to shares should not invest in the shares directly. They should go through a mutual fund.
Okay.
And people talk about SIP. But I believe anything that someone sells as an organization, it is more beneficial to the organization than the customer. So I would not even believe SIPs as a good solution, because every time you transact, there's a transaction charge. Yeah. So if you invest 1 lakh at one time, and if you invest in 10,000 each, there are different transaction charges.
Correct.
Unlike SIPs, what you should do is they should invest in ETF. How many people know that the Western world or developed world, most of the money invested by retail investors is in ETFs. ETFs are exchange traded funds. They are passive funds where people can buy and sell directly on the exchange. Okay. India is shifting towards that. Most of the professional investors who want to invest in funds or mutual funds, they normally invest in ETFs. One more thing, I would be happy if the government could securitize the gold part. See, Indians have love for gold. You can't do anything.
Undeniable.
With it. I have tried so much for this thing, but you can't do it. And if you can't do much, at least give them the assurance that there'll be a gold bond. We had something called SGB, sovereign gold bonds. We also had tax-free bonds. I don't know whether you are aware or not. Indian government has to think about small investors or people who have small amount of money and should provide such schemes for them. I can understand that they may not like middle class guys, investors. But middle class is still very poor today. I don't know whether you are aware or not. If you compare with inflation, the income tax slabs are not much different from what they were, say, 20 years ago or 15 years ago or 10 years ago or whatever. Yes. I think it has to change. People have to grow. If we want to go per capita income, The exemption limits has to be low. I'll give you one more example. India's deposit insurance, when you keep bank deposits, Western world laughs at it. I do not know whether you're aware or not, but when you measure in pounds, for instance, or euros, it's just 5,000. That is 5 lakh rupiah.
Just 5,000 euros.
So 5 lakh rupiah is the only deposit. If you put in bank some 10 lakh rupees, only 5 lakh rupees guaranteed. Remaining can just vanish. It's very small amount.
Is your family supportive of your busy schedule?
I think they have no choice. I still get calls. I work quite late. I hope that the calls stop sometime, the messages stop sometime. In the days of the internet, it's become difficult. But one of the ways to relieve is I have a young daughter and I ask her to keep awake a little bit. And before sleeping, we have nice conversations. Sometimes it goes on very late, but sometimes it ends in 10-15 minutes. One of the ways I relax is I play games. Playing games actually improves productivity. I am happy to tell you that I used to write lots of poems. They are in diaries, physical diaries. Since I got married, I stopped writing.
Okay, so I have a very interesting question to ask you. If you were the director of a movie about stock exchange and the scene depicts the market crashing, imagine and tell me in different frames what emotions, what element.
Very interesting question. I had not imagined up to now, but let me imagine. If I make a movie, normally I believe it should be made from the perspectives of various people. So market crash is the most important thing for the investors because they are seeing their money value going down, the portfolio value. I can just imagine some investors scratching their heads, pulling their hair out, getting nervous whether to take out the money or not, crying. And I've seen those crashes. It's a very sad scenario. When a poor man loses something, he loses a lot, even if it's small. But when an investor loses something, it's a similar effect. And rich investors also cry. I have seen their hurt because when we talk personally, they have shown that. Because their ego is bolstered by the amount of portfolio they have. So that's one perspective. Second perspective, I can imagine because I worked in a stock exchange, make sure that it runs. Whenever such things happen, there's something called circuit limits in stock markets. Those circuit limits have to be very dynamic.
Circuit limits.
Yes. So the price cannot go below certain or above certain things. So you have to dynamically adjust the limits because depending on the rules of the game. There are rules of the game that if the market falls by so and so percentage, then you have to shut down the market. So just imagine the prices are going down and suddenly the market is shut because we have to shut it down. Just imagine the investors. They now don't even know whether the markets will go up or not, whether their margins have to give in or not. Whenever the markets go down drastically, the margin money is blocked. Where if the market go up by 1% or goes down by 1%, and 1% is not such a big sum, though people may think so.
Yeah.
There would be a bhopu which will ring in my office as well as it will ring in the finance ministry there. And within
on a market
certain certain time, we have to send a report what happened because the parliament can ask the questions or the finance minister can ask the questions. They should have a report. The third part, which is most important, is there are people who don't even care about it. The contract labor, the people who have never invested in markets, they just wonder what happened. ये market गिर गया तो क्या हुआ? क्या फर्क पड़ता है? I would make a movie on all these aspects, but there is one thing I will do like Titanic or many other people who do the movies. I would keep one protagonist who will see this from different points of view. Maybe a student, maybe a new investor, or maybe a broker member. I'll tell you, India's broking community is really so good. If they were not there, India would not be developed so fast or so high because those brokers understood in 1875 that a stock exchange is important if you want to develop our country.
Okay, so do you think crypto is the future of transaction? Will it ever be replaced by the currency?
If you're talking about India, I don't think so. But world over, crypto is considered better than others because then you don't have to manage. There are some countries in the world who can't manage their own currencies. But in my opinion, technology will take its own course. So today you'll see lots of people putting the crypto in the wrong light, saying it's used for criminal activities or not. Do you think the governments across the world don't do it? Politicians don't do it? But crypto will not make a big currency. The reason is it is very unsafe to governments. Governments don't like to lose control. Like for
Yeah.
instance, the Indian government is trying to monitor your chats and calls and all that.
They'll
It
not
is
have
because
much
they are
say
afraid
in
that it
it.
will be misused by terrorists or whatever.
Yeah.
But let me tell you, terrorists are not going to use WhatsApp to call if WhatsApp is being observed by the government.
Correct.
They will make the small apps. You think today, if people could go and put aeroplanes in a World Trade Center in America, they can't learn apps?
Correct.
You can employ any technical guys at very small price and they can do. The world's global capability centers are in India. They are using our engineers. Do you know what they are developing? They might, for all you know, they might be developing apps to how to hurt India. And it's Indians who are doing it. They don't know.
Correct.
So that is why crypto, I don't think, will take up the world's currency stage. Yes, America is scared that the US dollar will lose its strength.
Yeah.
It is going to happen someday.
So, do you see a change in Shankar Jadhav in early days and the man you are today?
It's a huge difference. People learn over time. One of the things I learned is if you trust a person and if that trust is misled, once or twice mistakes occur. So I have got lots of friends, colleagues, etc., family members. Once that trust goes, it's very troublesome. And I tell people, don't let other considerations come in. And my advice to young generation today is have trustworthy friends and you make sure that you are trustworthy first before you expect trust from others.
Yes.
The world is changing.
Okay. So, after this great knowledge sharing session that we had, we will move to our next segment to add some fun to the episode and we'll get you on a rapid fire. Ready? Shall we start?
Yes.
Great. What's one word your team would use to describe your leadership style?
Friend.
What's your favorite snack to have in office?
Chai.
How do you celebrate a big win or an achievement?
I go home, take my family or sit with them and discuss. And they don't hate it because they feel that I should have celebration like going out for a dinner.
What's one thing people would be surprised to learn about you?
That I really write and read more in Marathi than English.
Okay, so this gets me to the next question. Say this dialogue in Marathi. हम जहाँ खड़े होते हैं लाइन वहीं से शुरू होती है.
मी जिथे उभा राहतो तिथूनच क्यू सुरू होतो.
Oh, lovely. If you were an investor, name top 3 stocks you would invest in.
I wouldn't hazard a guess, but yes, let me tell you that if you want the top 3, just invest in the index stocks.
Okay. If you didn't belong to finance background, where would you find yourself?
I would be a medical doctor trying to maintain health of people.
Medical doctor. That's great. What's your favorite industry to be a part of?
Technology.
Would you take a loan to invest in stocks?
Yes, why not if required?
Great. Thank you so much, Mr. Jadhav. You were quite spontaneous. One line answer, very quick. Thank you so much.
Thank you very
much. It was
much.
a lovely session having you on the podcast and getting to know so many things which we actually thought was the other way around.
I am very happy to be here today with you and your colleagues. And it was fun to be asked questions. Very rarely someone will ask personal questions. And thank you very much.
Thank you so much for such candid conversations. This helps us to know a leader better, and not just in professional aspect, because that's, I think, a wider aspect which is shown to the world, but something which they are deep inside. Thank you so much once again for coming on the show and talking wide.
Can I comment one more thing?
Please.
You asking me questions actually helped me learn a lot.
Wow.
Because I might have had all these answers in my head, but unless someone asks a question, those don't come out. So thank you very much for getting that out, and very lovely to have met you here and discuss this.
It was a huge compliment for us as a team. Thank you so much once again.